Well, hey, let's check it out. You ever gone through a slump? You're like, man, if I could only get back to when I was killing it. Hopefully you have killed it at one time, right? Let's talk about if we've been killing it and suddenly we go down into a slump and we can't figure out how to get out of this slump. Like, man, how do we set an anchor? There's something we got to do to get out of this, right? So check it out. Two things. Number one, I always say if you get in a slump, go back to what made you successful before, right? So if you didn't write a buoyancy plan, things to start, stop, and continue doing to be successful, that's one piece. Let's talk about something completely different, right? I had the pleasure of working with a Olympic gymnast named Sean Johnson, right? So cool thing was way back in the day, they were talking about anchor modeling in the Olympics. Professional athletes, right? Got the pleasure of having some really good buddies that talk about that. They talk about anchoring in that aspect, right? Neuro-linguistic program talks about anchoring, right? There's anchors we do, basically, there's anchors we do just to process throughout the presentation. But check this anchor out. An anchor takes you back to a time. Think of a time where you were successful. You won an award. You you felt on fire, right? I closed 10 out of my 10 last orders, right? I've got 400 grand on the board. I've done all these things where I've won all these awards, or I feel so good, or I hit the game-winning home run, whatever it was, right? If you could take yourself back to that moment, and that's the person you were for the rest of your life, every time you walk into a house, every time you interact with a customer, every time you get in a situation where they go, how would that change your outcome? How would that change your career? How would that change the way that you view the world? It would dramatically. So what I'm telling you got to sit there and you got to put yourself in a situation. Sometimes you can set your own anchors, but sometimes you need somebody to help you, maybe that you trust, set an anchor. Let's check it out. Let me show you how to do it. So again, what I want to do is I want to take something that literally could be something I need to be reminded of. There's a guy I had working for me named Mike, right? And one time he was on fire and then he went down a slump. And he forgot what he was and who he was when he was basically killing it. So what we did is we put a little rubber band around his wrist. And that rubber band, every time he would touch that rubber band, it would take him back to that moment in time. So what I literally said is, Mike, close your eyes real quick. Now I want you to visualize putting yourself in that situation, right? Like 10, 9, 8, you're getting calm, you're cool, right? Take yourself back to that moment. Picture what you were wearing during that moment, what it looked like, the smells, the attitude, the things that were going on, and how you felt in that moment, right? You're looking at the world right now through that set of eyes. Think about every time you walk into a house. What did it feel like when you won that award? What did it feel like looking out over the crowd? What did it feel like when you killed that $400,000 month? What did it look like when you basically step on stage and you actually killed that speech? What does it look like when you stepped up to bat and you hit that game-winning home run or that game-winning hit, that diving catch you made, whatever it was that you did, right? Put yourself in that situation. And you put yourself in this situation, you're thinking through it, and you're putting yourself in this slice of life. And I want you to keep touching down that anchor. As you touch that, you touch your wristband on your watch. You touch basically your rubber band. You touch your wrist. You touch your elbow. You touch your arm, right? You touch your ear. These things that you touch need to remind you every time you touch your ear, every time you touch your elbow, every time you touch your rubber band, every time you touch your watch band. I want you to think about putting yourself back in that same situation of what it felt like to be so successful in that moment, and that feeling that no one can ever take away how you felt in that moment. You felt invincible. You felt literally like you were on top of the world. You feel like you could accomplish anything. You felt like anything that came to you was off. The matter did not matter. You could overcome almost anything. I want you to keep your hand on your watch band or basically your rubber band. I'm going to count back down for it. As I do that, I want you to keep yourself in the thought. I want you to focus on that thought and keep that thought, right? 10, 9. Think of that thought. How did you feel? What did it look like? What were the smells? What was your attitude? How excited were you to be to tell everyone about it? Where you felt like you could conquer, you couldn't be let down, right? 7, 6, 5, 4. Picture this. Think of the smell, right? You've got a hold of this. Now you're walking with utter confidence. You know you can't be stopped. You know what you're doing is putting you in that situation success. You're always going to smell that success and take yourself back as long as you can take yourself back to your anchor. 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Now what you've done is you set an anchor that's taken you back to that time and place that no one can ever take back. So before you step in the house and you set your anchor, I want you to take yourself back to that moment. Now, I didn't really set a real anchor on you, but you kind of get the picture, right? Put yourself in that situation, because your mind is so powerful. What we think we feel, right? What we feel is how we react. So make sure you put yourself in a situation where the 6 to 8 inches between your ears are focused on what you're capable of and who you need to become to be successful in that moment. When we take ourselves back to the moments we're successful, remind ourselves we're capable, big things happen. So again, what we're doing is we're taking your focus, we're putting it back on your capability, put you back in that situation. So remember what it's like to be successful, and you take yourself back and you set your own anchor. If it is to be, it's up to me, and you've already done it, you know we're capable. Take yourself back to that spot. Remember, what are things I need to start, stop, and continue doing? And if you remind yourself of the times where you're doing it good, I promise you, you'll kill it. See you on the board, guys. I believe in you. Let's go. See ya.
Yeah, but